You know that feeling, right, when you first hit a large language model API. You write just a couple of lines of code, you fire off a prompt, and boom, a perfectly good sentence comes right back at you. It honestly feels like you're doing magic. But here's the thing. That magic is kind of an illusion. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see what it really takes to go from that simple toy to a tool that's ready for the real world. Okay, so this is where pretty much everybody starts out. We call it the toy architecture. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's basically just a thin little UI wrapped around a single API call. A user types something, we shoot it off to the LLM, and we send the response right back. It's simple, it's fast, and hey, it works. For one person sitting on their laptop. And this is the trap. Because getting that first response is so ridiculously easy, we fool ourselves into thinking the whole project is going to be that easy. We think, wow, I'm like 90% of the way there. But the hard truth is, you've barely even started. You're not even at the starting line yet. So if that quick prototype isn't 90% of the work, what is it? Well, this is where the reality check really kicks in. To get a handle on the huge gap between that little script and a real enterprise-grade AI system, we need to talk about something called the 15% rule. So let me ask you a question. I want you to really think about this. Picture a complex professional AI app, something used by thousands, maybe millions of people. In that entire system, all that code, what percentage of it do you think is actually dedicated to that one little magic trick, the part that calls the LLM? Get this, the answer is less than 15%. Yeah, you heard that right. The piece of the system that feels like the entire AI, it's just a tiny, tiny fraction of the total engineering work. It's a shocking number, but it's the absolute truth of building real AI products. Which, of course, brings us to the most important question of all. If the LLM call is only 15%, what in the world is the other 85%? To answer that, let's take a look at what happens when that 85% is completely missing. So let me tell you a little cautionary tale. Let's talk about Skystream Airlines. They built a customer service bot over a weekend, a classic toy prototype. It looked amazing in the demo, of course. But then, a storm hit, and that weekend prototype came face to face with reality. And this is where it all falls apart. First, you've got the concurrency failure. The storm hits, 500 angry passengers all try to rebook their flights at the exact same time, and bam, the bot instantly hits its API rate limit. The whole service just crashes, dead. Then there's compliance. A panicked user types in their credit card number to rebook. The bot, because it has zero filters, just sends that number straight to a third-party API. That's a huge data breach, and it means millions in fines for Skystream. And finally, the killer, cost. 1,000 different people ask the exact same simple question, what's the baggage allowance? And the bot, well, it pays the API provider 1,000 separate times for the exact same answer. It's just a complete and total meltdown on every level. So here's the bottom line, and it's a quote I want you to remember. When you're building for real users, especially in a business setting, the stakes are so much higher. Your failures aren't just little bugs you can fix later. No, they are incidents. We're talking costly, brand-damaging events with very serious consequences. All right, so we've seen the disaster. Now let's look at the solution. Let's finally dive into that hidden 85%. All the robust engineering that turns a fragile toy into a professional system that doesn't crumble under pressure. And this is what a pro architecture looks like. What's so cool is that each one of these pieces directly fixes one of Skystream's problems. Remember those 1,000 baggage questions? Well, a gateway caches that answer after the first time, so the next 999 requests cost basically nothing. That credit card leak? A guardrail spots the pattern and scrubs the sensitive data before it ever leaves your server. Problem solved. And those 500 users crashing the system? A simple queue lines them up and feeds their requests to the bot one by one, so the system stays stable. This isn't magic, folks. This is just solid, professional engineering. I think the best way to visualize all of this is with the iceberg metaphor. What your users and stakeholders see is just the tiny tip of the iceberg, the prompt and the response. But what keeps that thing from just tipping over and sinking, what makes it safe and reliable, is that massive invisible structure of engineering that's hidden below the water. The engineering is what keeps the LLM afloat. So let's actually put some names to the stuff that's inside that iceberg. That missing 85% is things like an orchestration layer, which helps manage really complex multi-step tasks. It's a vector database, which gives your app a kind of long-term memory. It's those guardrails we talked about for safety. It's observability tools, so you can actually track your costs and performance. And it's a gateway for critical things like caching and rate limiting. This, right here, is the professional AI stack. So, to really get this, it takes a fundamental shift in your mindset. You have to stop seeing yourself as just a person who writes a wrapper around an API. You need to start thinking like an architect, someone who designs a complete, resilient system from the ground up. I mean, the difference could not be more stark. The toy is a fragile little script. It falls over at the first sign of scale, it leaks data like a sieve, and its costs just explode as more people use it. The Pro, on the other hand, is a real distributed system. It has safety baked in from the start, and it uses smart things like caching to keep costs under control. One is a house of cards, the other is a fortress. So, if you only take one single thing away from this whole explainer, please let it be this. As an AI engineer, your job is not just writing clever prompts. Your real job, your most important job, is to build a safe, reliable, and efficient system around a core that is, by its very nature, unpredictable. It's probabilistic. And that right there is the real challenge and the real craft of AI engineering. And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about as you go work on your own projects. Look at what you're building, think about the risks, and ask yourself, honestly, are you building a toy or are you building a tool?